Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kern County Planning Commission meeting of November 10th, 2022. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Commissioner Ashley?
Here.
Commissioner Judge?
Here.
Commissioner McGifty?
Here.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Here.
Commissioner Sprague? Mr. Van Wyk?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Slayton? Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is commission member announcement reports. Do we have any commissioners to deliver any reports?
None.
Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from October 27th. A motion to approve.
Move to approve the minutes from the October 27th meeting.
Second?
A motion is second. Voice vote.
Aye.
Aye. All say aye. Chair says aye. Motion, motion passes. Item D, cases withdrawn. Seeing none. Item E, consent items. These are items scheduled before the Planning Commission, which are being recommended for approval by the staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objections. The hearing on these items may be expedited if no member of the commission or audience wishes to comment or ask questions on the case. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We have one item on the consent calendar tonight. This is case number 2. This is tract 6830. It's an extension of time request. Our applicant is Manuel de la Serra. The project site is located on the north and south sides of Mountain Way, approximately 600 feet west of San Juan Drive in the Bear Valley Springs area. The item before your commission this evening is an extension of time for a period of 3 years for vesting tentative tract 6830, which proposed to divide a 104.86 acre site into 8 lots ranging in size from just over 10 acres to just over 20 acres for single-family residential development. The project included one limited design variation to the land division ordinance that would allow a 46-foot wide public access easement where 60 feet is required. The staff recommendation is to approve the 3-year extension of time from the December 1st, 2020 date to December 1st, 2025, all subject to the original conditions of approval, with the inclusion of an additional condition that requires the payment of traffic impact fees in effect at the time building permits are applied for on any lot within the recorded map or phase. Adopt the original findings as set forth in the attached resolution number 10408 with the inclusion of the recommended findings. That completes the reading of the consent calendar tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any comments from the commission on this? Hearing none. I didn't know if any members of the public would add any comments about this, but I did not see any. So we're moving forward here. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 2 as read in the record by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Call the vote.
4 ayes, 1 absent. The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Murphy, are you ready to
Thank you
appeal?
again, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this project is final, so it is subject to an appeal. For projects where your commission action is final, those actions are subject to appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. That appeal can be filed at the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department, located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms that we have available at the department and on our website. For tract maps, that appeal must be filed within 10 days from the date of the decision of your commission. And again, that requires an appeal fee of $540. If no appeal is received, the action of your commission is final.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Item F is public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on this agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record before making any presentation. Do we have any public presentations this evening from the audience? Here, seeing and hearing none, we move on to item G, public hearings. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So this night, in addition to Katrina Slayton, we have Mr. Randall Cates. Randall Cates is the project planner who worked on this project, and Mr. Cates will be giving the presentation for tonight's item.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So the project before your commission is the Gem Hill Quarry Project by Cal Portland Company. The proposed project is a surface mining operation, including associated reclamation plan, on a 210-acre project site that includes a maximum disturbance of 82 acres. The project site is located approximately 4 miles northwest of the unincorporated community of Rosamond, within the boundaries of the Kern County General Plan. The lifespan of the operation is proposed to be 30 years. There would be a maximum of 20 employees on site at any one time, which includes approximately 10 haul truck drivers. Haul truck drivers would transport overburden material to the on-site stockpiles and transport mine material off-site. As shown on this aerial map, the project site is comprised of 4 assessors' parcel numbers located in a rural area, primarily consisting of undeveloped land, with several dirt access roads that traverse the site and 2 recently graded pad areas. The entire project site is located within Flood Zone X as designated by FEMA, which is identified as an area of minimal flood hazard. And as shown on this aerial map, the project site consists of a 210-acre area of land on the west side of Mojave Tropical Road. That's the green area on the map, and that is owned by the project proponent. As previously indicated, the entire project disturbance area would be limited to 82 acres, which is the red area shown on the map. Mining, the actual mine pit would be limited to a 35-acre area, as shown in blue on the map, and a 0.75-acre primary access road administered by the California State Lands Commission is shown on the yellow area. That would provide access between the project site and Mojave Tropical Road. And the nearest known sensitive receptor is a rural residence located approximately 858 feet northeast of the project site boundary, on the east side of a ridge with no line of sight to the actual project site. Other nearby residences are located further to the north and northeast at distances ranging from approximately 2,000 feet to 4,000 feet. And as previously indicated, approximately 35 acres would be mined, as shown on this engineered site plan. As shown on the plan, mining would be undertaken as a single pit with an excavation depth of maximum 300 feet. And the action before your commission tonight pertains to one conditional use permit. If approved, this project would authorize a surface mining operation, including associated reclamation plan, comprised of the following areas as shown on the overhead map. So as previously indicated, there'll be a 35-acre, as proposed, 35-acre pit, open pit, and an estimated total of 15 million tons of naturally occurring pozzolan, also known as volcanic tuff, a material used in the production of cement, would be mined. Additionally, total anticipated production of mine waste, also known as overburden, is estimated to be 600,000 tons, which would be disposed of in 2 overburden stockpiles. Approximately 23-acre area for roads and access areas, approximately 11-acre area for the 2 overburden stockpiles, approximately 2.5-acre area for multiple stormwater basins, approximately 10-acre area for other associated disturbance, including equipment storage, scale, and security area. And the primary access road to and from Mojave Tropical Road, there's an existing road there now. It would be widened as proposed. And a secondary access road to and from Mojave Tropical Road would be installed about 1,500 feet to the north. Neither of these access roads is proposed to be reclaimed as part of the reclamation plan, as they would continue to be needed for site access. And as proposed, water will be obtained from a proposed on-site water well and loaded into a 4,000-gallon capacity truck and delivered within the project site is needed for dust suppression. Proposed water demand would be approximately 6 million gallons per year. And the total anticipated water use would be approximately 176 million gallons over the proposed 30-year life of operations. And the project proponents also submitted a request for a setback deviation report, and that's included as attachment 1 to your staff report. To deviate from the setback requirements of the surveyed section line road alignment, right-of-way to 0 feet along the north-south and east-west section lines within the project area, which is shown in blue on the map. And the circulation element of the Kern County General Plan acknowledges that identifying some section lines as future county roadways may cause an undue hardship to the affected property owners in remote areas. Accordingly, the circulation element provides a legal method allowing land use development to occur without the need for a formal amendment to that plan, thereby allowing a setback deviation report to be approved by the planning director. And the planning director reviewed the submitted report and has concluded that the setback deviation request is appropriate based on the site and project characteristics as noted in your staff report. Overall, the implementation of the conditional use permit, if approved, is for a surface mining operation and development of a reclamation plan for a quarry that would render the road reservations non-traversable as they run through the center of the proposed pit, as well as some of the an overburden stockpile as well. Consequently, staff cannot foresee any reason to establish and maintain the easement reservations along those project area section lines. The Kern County Public Works Department has reviewed and concurs approval of the requested setback deviation. So an environmental impact report was prepared for this project in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. All 4 volumes of the environmental impact report have been provided to your commission and also posted on the department website. Pages 8 through 16 of your staff report detail the environmental process, comments received, as well as responses to those comments. While most of the project impacts can be reduced to less than significant levels with implementation of the required mitigation measures, staff has determined that implementation of the project will result in the following significant and unavoidable impacts. So project and cumulative impacts to aesthetics, and then also cumulative impacts to biological resources. And the final EIR contains 41 proposed mitigation measures to reduce project and cumulative impacts associated with this project. The proposed mitigation measure monitoring program listing all of the proposed mitigation measures has been attached to your staff report as Exhibit C for review. And staff has received 12 written comment letters from individuals and agencies during the 45-day public review period. Additionally, 3 more comments were received after that 45-day public review period. The major concerns brought up in the comments during the public review period were from an adjacent property owner in regard to the project's impacts on air quality and health risk, biological resources, groundwater and water supply, as well as noise. And with regard to air quality and health risk, staff notes that with implementation of the 10 mitigation measures described, the project air quality and health impacts are reduced to a less than significant level, including the following. So compliance with applicable Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District requirements, also development and implementation of a fugitive dust control plan, reclamation efforts on portions of disturbed areas not subject to further surface mining operations, the watering or application of a palliative to internal haul roads. Also, mine materials transported off-site are to be covered or wetted in order to limit dust, or have 6 inches of space from the top of the dump truck container. Also, valley fever training, a COVID-19 health and safety plan, and a one-time payment to the Kern County Public Health Services Department for public awareness programs. So regarding comments on the biological resources of the project site, the project by itself would not result in significant impacts to any species identified as either candidate, sensitive, or special status with implementation of the 7 mitigation measures described. So with respect to groundwater and water quality, staff notes that the project's aquifer is distinct from that of the nearby residential properties. Fremont Valley Groundwater Basin, which is located immediately north of the project site. Additionally, the estimated volume and yield of the groundwater in the project's source aquifer was evaluated in the EIR to assess the available supply and availability over the 30-year life of the project. And the water supply assessment concluded that even if the project site and the residences were in the same aquifer, the average annual residential consumption of water, combined with the project's anticipated water use, would result in a total demand of approximately 42% of the aquifer capacity and have no significant impact on neighboring water use. So with regards to noise, the noise assessment for the project reveals that the anticipated operational and haul truck noise levels fall below the threshold of significance at the nearest receptors and are less than significant. Furthermore, the noise contours considered in the noise assessment conservatively do not account for the effects of any existing noise barriers or topography that may further reduce noise levels. And the surrounding hilly terrain, shown here on the map, is likely to reduce noise impacts to a greater extent than was actually analyzed in the EIR on nearby sensitive receptors. Nonetheless, proposed mitigation requires a noise disturbance coordinator be established, whom shall be responsible for responding to noise complaints, and signs are required to be posted around the project site with a telephone number where noise complaints can be registered. Last, mitigation requires blasting activities to be limited to no more than one time per day during operational hours, specifically between the hours of 10 o'clock a.m. and 4 o'clock p.m. Monday through Friday. The environmental impact report contains a reclamation plan as Volume 2, Appendix B. As required by the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act of 1975, also known as SMARA for short. The reclamation plan was furnished to the Department of Conservation, Division of Mine Reclamation, also known as the DMR, for review and comment. And the DMR responded on September 23rd, stating that it had reviewed the proposed reclamation plan and associated documents, and it provided no specific comments at that time. And staff has not received any subsequent comments from the DMR. Additionally, the DMR was apprised in writing of tonight's hearing 30 days in advance of the hearing as required by SMARA. And during the course of processing this request, staff has notified all affected agencies, county departments, and property owners within 1,000 feet of the project site area. As a result of that notification, 2 comment letters were received, one from the Kern County Fire Department and one from the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. These comment letters have been provided to your commission as an attachment to your staff report. So staff has reviewed this project in its entirety, and the proposed project would utilize approximately 82 acres within an approximately 210-acre project site of undeveloped land in unincorporated Kern County to extract naturally occurring pozzolan, also known as volcanic tuff, for use in the production of cement for approximately 30 years to help meet the demands of customers inside and outside of Kern County, which is consistent with the Kern County ordinances and the State Mining and Reclamation Act, also known as SMARA, of 1975. And the proposed project would establish a quarry capable of producing naturally occurring pozzolan, also known as volcanic tuff, at a rate of approximately 500,000 tons per year, which would result in a total production of approximately 15 million tons of material over the proposed 30-year lifespan. And the project would create an environmentally sound project that would balance the recovery of the pozzolanic volcanic tuff resource with the protection of other resources, including wildlife habitat, sensitive and special status species, groundwater, surface water, and air quality as well. The project would mine in a location that contains sufficient land with surrounding compatible uses and would provide a mine in an area in proximity to the project proponent cement plants, as well as other users of pozzolanic volcanic tuff, And it's also, the project site's also near the intended market areas, thereby alleviating current and future traffic and associated impacts. And the project would minimize environmental impacts by using existing roads, rights-of-way, and other existing infrastructure. And the project would also create and maintain approximately 20 full-time equivalent jobs. And pozzolan is a naturally occurring material having cementitious properties, which increases the long-term strength of concrete and improves other material properties of concrete as well. And it also reduces emissions of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming or climate change in the production of cement. Therefore, the project would support California's efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by producing a natural pozzolan, again, volcanic tuff, to be utilized to replace a portion of the material referred to as cement clinker, which is just a solid material. All right, so at this time, I would like to turn over to Ms. Slayton to discuss revisions made to the project's recommended conditions and mitigation measures provided to your commission in the staff report addendum.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Good to see you all tonight. So as Mr. Cates mentioned, staff has further reviewed the project's required mitigation and recommended conditions of approval and has made some revisions to provide clarity of the intent of the requirements and to address the concerns of the nearby residents. These revisions have been provided to you tonight in your addendum staff report, and I will summarize them for you as well. So first, mitigation measure 4.1-3, which required the outdoor lighting plan, has been revised to clarify that because the operations will occur throughout the site over the life of the project, the plan will be subject to change to ensure light impacts to adjacent parcels are reduced to the extent feasible. The mitigation measure also has been revised to require a lighting complaint coordinator and signage with contact information for how to register a complaint. Mitigation measure 4.2-4 that requires areas of mining and reclamation as well as haul roads be watered or have a dust palliative applied to minimize fugitive dust emissions has been revised to require a summary of the approved fugitive dust plan detailing the number of water trucks and frequency for watering, as well as the dust palliative to be applied, if any, be provided to the planning department. And additionally, mitigation measure 4.2-5, which requires mined materials transported off-site to be covered, wetted, or have 6 inches of freeboard, as Mr. Cates explained, has been revised to also require a fugitive dust complaint coordinator and signage with contact information for how to register an off-site dust complaint. Mitigation measure 4.2-12 originally required 1 sign be posted at the site displaying information on how to register a noise complaint. However, this measure has been revised to require 2 signs, 1 at each of the project's primary and secondary access roads where they intersect with Mojave Tropico Road. And mitigation measure 4.12-3, which limited blasting to no more than 1 time per day, has been revised to clarify that blasting activities are to occur only between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Blasting activity proposed outside of these hours must be authorized by the planning director, and mailed notice shall be provided to the nearby residential properties at least 1 week prior to blasting outside of these specified hours. The revision to this measure also includes a provision that blasting may commence outside of the specified hours without the director's authorization and required mailing notice if an unforeseen health and safety concern exists as determined by the federally licensed explosives operator in charge of blasting activities. In this instance, a report must be provided to the department within 48 hours of the incident. And last, as part of the overall recommended conditions of approval, condition 13P has been added to require the project proponent establish a complaint hotline and coordinator who will be responsible for responding to any of the complaints regarding the project. The hotline and coordinator required by the individual mitigation measures discussed may be one and the same, and the hotline contact information is to be posted on the Mojave Tropico Road at each of the project's primary and secondary access locations. If required, encroachment permits necessary for the signage shall be obtained from the Public Works Department. Additionally, the recommended condition 13P requires that written notice be mailed to all residences within 1,000 feet of the project site no sooner than 15 days prior to the commencement of ground disturbing activities and include the project operational schedule and contact information for providing questions or concerns. Evidence of the required signs and mailing notice is to be provided to the planning department, and a summary of all complaints received along with measures taken to address these complaints shall be provided to the department annually. So I would also like to add for the record that your commission's action on this item tonight is final. As such, there is an administrative typo in the draft resolution included in your staff report. Section 2B, as in boy, shall strike the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors and be revised to reflect that it is the decision of the Planning Commission to certify the environmental impact report. So with that, I turn back to Mr. Cates to read the department recommendation.
All right, thank you, Ms. Slayton. So the department recommendation for this project is to advise the Planning Commission to first certify the environmental impact report, to adopt the revised Section 15091 findings of fact and Section 15093 statement of overriding considerations, to adopt the revised mitigation measure monitoring program, to approve conditional use permit subject to revised recommended conditions, and also to adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution. So the project proponent is in the audience tonight and is prepared to present, should your commission like to hear from them. But before I conclude, I'd like to ask Mr. Murphy if he has anything he would like to add.
Thank you, Mr. Cates. I do not. That concludes staff's presentations, and we're happy to provide any questions you have before you take any public testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is the project applicant here this evening? Would you like to make a statement or a presentation at this time?
Yes, please.
Please come forward.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Desiree Haggard. I'm the Director of Environmental Affairs with Cal Portland. Attending with me tonight from Cal Portland is Tina McIntyre, our VP of Marketing, Allison Everhart, Environmental Manager, Sarah Alvarado, our Marketing and Community Relations Manager, and Bruce Schaefer, a recently retired Executive VP of Cal Portland, and the Chief Advocate for this project. I also have our lead technical consultant, Frank Amendola with Lilburn, and our CEQA legal consultants, Adam Guernsey and Mark Harrison, here in the audience. I'd like to start by thanking county planning staff, Mr. Cates and Mr. Smalls. Thank you for seeing this project through to completion. We have reviewed the staff report, and we agree with the analysis as drafted. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Cal Portland. We are the oldest continually producing Portland cement company west of the Rocky Mountains. It was founded in 1891 with our Colton, California cement plant. Cal Portland cement has been used in some of the largest and most significant construction projects, including the Hoover Dam, the Los Angeles Aqueduct, the Los Angeles City Hall, the Staples Center, and more. Locally, 30,000 tons of Cal Portland cement was used in the paving project for State Route 14. It has also been used locally in windmill foundations and even the runway at Edwards Air Force Base. From its early years, Cal Portland has been a leader in the industry through our commitment to environmental awareness, quality product, and customer service. Next slide, please. Cal Portland has been an active member in the local community for 67 years. Cal Portland's Mojave Cement Plant, pictured here on this slide, has been in operation since 1955 and is a major employer in the local area with approximately 150 full-time employees, 40 of which are salaried and 110 are union hourly. In addition, we also have 80,000 hours of contract labor help annually, which equates to over 40 full-time employees. Cal Portland actively invests in the next generation by offering paid internships to college students, which helps the company recruit top talent while giving students access to high-paying jobs when they graduate. The Gem Hill project will bring an additional 20 jobs to the local community. Next slide, please. The Gem Hill site is a key component to Cal Portland's carbon reduction initiative, which consists of a small 35-acre quarry to extract natural volcanic tuff, which is a pozzolan material. Pozzolan from this project will be used as a clinker replacement in cement production at Cal Portland's Mojave plant and other cement facilities. Distribution of pozzolan from Gem Hill will aid the local market in reducing additional handling, transportation, and other related emissions. This initiative is an important element in the company's ongoing energy and greenhouse gas reduction efforts. Next slide, please. This reclamation plan has been a complicated engineering project in the works for over 4 years. It has been authored and refined by over 10 technical consulting firms, as well as a number of internal technical professionals. All of these professionals ensure the careful design of the mining area to avoid potential environmental impacts to the maximum extent possible. Numerous iterations of the mining areas and designs have been evaluated, with the version in front of you being the least impactful way to recover this critical resource. There were 8 environmental categories analyzed as part of the project study. The project was determined to have no significant impact in 7 of those categories, including aesthetics, air quality, cultural resources, drainage, hydrology, geotechnical, noise, and traffic. The project will have limited impacts to jurisdictional drainages. The site will operate in compliance with all conditions of approval and mitigation measures presented in the staff report. Next slide, please. The natural pozzolan at Gem Hill requires no additional heat treatment to be used in cement and concrete. By replacing cement clinker with pozzolan, Gem Hill will be greatly reducing its carbon dioxide emission factor for cement. The CO2 footprint of the produced cement will be reduced by approximately 1 ton of CO2 per ton of pozzolan replacement, which results in as much as 30,000 tons of CO2 in the local area when used at our Mojave cement plant. In addition, the utilization of pozzolan in the manufacturing of cement improves the durability of structural concrete. Next slide, please. Cal Portland has conducted internal studies on carbonation, or the uptake of CO2 in concrete. In addition, universities such as MIT and UC Irvine have studied the sustainability of concrete. All of these studies continue to show that CO2 is absorbed back into concrete. Carbonation occurs over the life of concrete, which can be over 100 years. The Gem Hill project will help reduce CO2 from the start of the concrete life cycle. Next slide, please. Environmental leadership is a core value of Cal Portland, which is shown by being an EPA Energy Star Partner of the Year for the past 18 years. This is the longest standing award for any industrial company, longer than Fortune 500 companies like Toyota and 3M. The use of pozzolan from Gem Hill is a key initiative we are taking to remain an environmental leader in greenhouse gas reduction by supplying the local market with domestic low-carbon cement products. Cal Portland has also demonstrated our commitment to environmental excellence by being the first company on the West Coast to roll out a CNG fleet of ready-mix and cement bulk haulers. We have over 140 trucks running on CNG to deliver cement and concrete in Southern California and the local area. The company is progressively looking at the viability of alternative biofuels and additives such as pozzolan being used in the cement process, which will result in carbon reduction while maintaining product quality. Next slide, please. Cal Portland is committed to active community engagement by encouraging employees to volunteer for local outreach events and opening our doors to students and teachers each year for tours. In past years, we have toured 200 students through our Mojave facility and provided in-classroom lessons on environmental and mining to over 2,000 students each school year. The company is a member of the Wildlife Habitat Council, which supports and recognizes businesses to achieve wins for nature. Many employees and associates of Cal Portland are members and supporters of Women in Mining, or WIM, which focuses on educating the public on the use of minerals in everyday life. If you haven't heard it before, the WIM slogan is, "If it can't be grown, it must be mined." Cal Portland is also a sponsor and active supporter of MEEC, the Mojave Environmental Education Consortium, which is a group of regulators, educators, and industry who come together to promote environmental education. Next slide, please. Over the past year, Cal Portland employees have been active volunteers in the Rosamond community by participating in cleanup days, the Parade of Lights, and worked with the VFW and Kern County to organize the inaugural Easter Spring Fling event. The company sponsors many local organizations such as Oak Creek Wild Horses, annual scholarships for Mojave High School, Mojave Little League, and Hooch and Blood Bank, to name a few. Cal Portland has also sponsored the communities of Rosamond, Mojave, and California City by providing Thanksgiving dinners. With the addition of the Gem Hill site, we look forward to further engagement with the community of Rosamond. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks again to staff for the informative presentation. Between me and Cal Portland's other representatives, we're available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open up, if there's anyone opposed to this project, please come forward, state your name for the record. If that's the case, we usually have a 2-minute limit.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yes. And please state your name, spell your name for the record, please.
My name is Lisa Checkley, Checkley. I'm actually a director of Rosamond Municipal Advisory Council, and we did do an ad hoc committee to figure out what we wanted to decide as far as the community. We had several meetings. Gem Hill did come in and do a plan for us, a presentation. Over the last 6 months, like I said, we've had several committee meetings. When the draft EIR was sent out, majority of the community did come out and start speaking to us about it. And at that time is when we developed our ad hoc committee. There's still several community members who are upset about the plan, and we understand why, because they live locally, because it's a rural area. We, as a committee, have come to the conclusion that we like the plan. We would love to have Cal Portland be our neighbor. They've been our neighbors in Mojave for almost 70 years. Several community members from Rosamond actually work there. Sure, there are a few things in the draft EIR that we did look at, but as far as we can tell, we would love to have the project in Rosamond. It's a good project, we feel, as a ad hoc committee and the Rosamond Municipal Advisory Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to comment about this project? Please come forward, state your name and spell it for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is Brandon Cangiano, Cangiano. We have a statement to read, which we'll read in series. We, the adjacent residents to the Pit Mine project, are extremely opposed to its approval. Please consider our unaddressed concerns as a basis for denying or at least reducing the scope of the destructive extraction project. We understand the immediate effects of this extraction project are only severe to a handful of fellow adjacent property owners in an unincorporated area. However, the cumulative impacts of the extraction project are being downplayed for the adjacent disadvantaged communities of Rosamond and Mojave. Furthermore, this extraction project is a misleading greenwash of the operation that only produces carbon dioxide gas emissions. The actual scope of this project has not been disclosed. Immediately upon receiving the notice of permit for a pit mine across the street, we have contacted Kern County Planning. We informed them of a significant bulldozing and grading operations by the Cal Portland at Gem Hill site beyond what was described in the previously permitted in the NOP and beyond the county grading ordinance limits, including scope changes greater than 2 feet and destruction of many Joshua trees. We provided historical and current ground and aerial photographs. We submitted responses to the NOP and the DEIR, asking for the full development and reclamation plan for all of those affected by Cal Portland lands. Our questions are yet still unanswered. In Volume 4, Responses to Comments for the DEIR, page 70 through 90, the county is not aware of any grading on the project site or off the project site is in violation. However, the county was repeatedly informed. Please see Volume 2, Appendix A.3, and Volume 4. As adjacent residents, we want to understand the full scope of the extraction project. Bulldozing the desert directly in front of our front door and in an upwind condition of the prevailing winds severely impacts our quality of life. We understand that the Planning Commission may not have the power to address the previous illegal activities committed by the proposer, Cal Portland. We ask the Planning Commission to consider the proposal's record of transparency and compliance when approving the scope of this new extraction process. Many of the project's visibility impacts are severe and are still underrated. Gem Hill is used as a backdrop in several advertising commercials, Hollywood movies, including the opening scene of Blazing Saddles, and music videos. The county's response in Volume 4, pages 7 through 92, dismisses our assertion that the Gem Hill is a one-of-a-kind or visually memorable or unusually memorable or very rare within the region. Per the DEIR Volume 1, Tables 4.1, it is our own subjective determination. Yes, we are very partial to Gem Hill, as demonstrated by our purchasing our home directly adjacent to it. And Hollywood has been partial too. County planning continues to assert on page 7-92 that routes through hillside topographical areas are available elsewhere in the region. We do not know where these locations are, and local residents have not identified any. The loss of Gem Hill's unique scenic vistas would be severe and irreversible. The project biological impacts are severe and still underrated. In Volume 2, Appendix A.3, the note of proposal comments, the county received multiple responses to the protocols for conducting wildlife surveys. Digital page 110 at the California Department of Conservation and digital page 118 for the Center of Biological Diversity all cite US, FWS, and CDFW for appropriate survey protocols. The ELMT survey provided in Volume 2, Appendix D.1 was not compliant with these protocols. The survey was of an inappropriate quantity, duration, season, and conducted during construction operations and is furthermore now expired. Photographs of a special status species were submitted in Volume 2, Appendix A.3 of the NOP comments and Volume 4 comments of the DEIR. Page 7-103, Kern County incorrectly assesses the location of the photographs and due to the presence of the wind turbines in the background, while in fact the background affirms the photographic location and credibility of the wind turbines are actually visible along the mountains from the north and west quadrant of the project site. Again, we join our voices to the scientists to request appropriate biological surveys be conducted and consider substituting adjacent undisturbed lands where habitat loss has already occurred. How's my time? Over.
You're about 4 minutes over.
Okay, well then I'll hand it off to someone else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for hearing me, Commissioners. Phil Moores, Mojave Tropico Road, property owner, last name spelled M-O-O-R-E-S. To continue with our speech here, project impacts are severe and unavoidable, so require a statement as to why the county accepts these impacts. In Volume 2, Appendix A.3, NOP comments, and Volume 4 DEIR responses, we ask why the county is considering a new extraction project at the expense of adjacent established residents and disadvantaged communities. In Volume 4 DEIR responses, page 7-93, the lead agency must approve a written statement of overriding considerations which explains why the aspects of the project outweigh the unavoidable adverse environmental impacts and why the lead agency is willing to accept such impacts. This extraction project checks nearly every single box on the project issues section and was found to have severe unavoidable impacts to visual biological resources. Even after all mitigation measures, the county is required to justify this acceptance. Traffic analysis excluded in Volume 4, page 7-119 DER Table 3-6, page 3-25 was referenced. The trip totals in this table do not include multi-axle factor for material haul trucks. So 14 AM would be 42 PCE, and 24 PM would be 52 PCE PM, exceeding the 50 PCE threshold as per the DEIR. Continuing, the CO hotspot analysis excluded. Traffic analysis underestimates the amount of vehicle traffic at this site. Traffic trips, internal site traffic, and constantly running diesel generators should be evaluated as they're sensitive residents living adjacent to this operation. The excluded carbon hotspot analysis should be required. Air quality impact severe and underrated. The dust and airborne particles from the project will negatively impact adjacent residents' health as well as adjacent solar energy production. Any amount of fugitive dust exposes valley fever and carcinogenic risks, which are all disclosed in the environmental impact report, but somehow not really addressed. We again request on-site monitoring of this extraction project emissions. The photos you have, there's evidence of the proposer emitting fugitive dust even during the wildlife survey which was conducted. They were actively mining and emitting dust. Greenhouse gas emissions excluded. The county cites an irrelevant study of China from China to dismiss our concern, accounting for the release of carbon sinks in undisturbed desert lands. The greenhouse gas emissions for the total footprint of mining, transportation, and cement manufacturing are required to fairly evaluate the merits of this extraction project. This was asked for by the Center of Biodiversity as well. See Volume 2, Appendix 8.3, digital page 120. Excuse me, sir.
Been about 2 minutes over.
Copy, sir. Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Michael Tribino. I'm a resident of TRI-BUNO, resident of Roseman for over 10 years and work in Mojave as an engineer. Several of the concerns. The adjacent residential well impacts don't feel have been sufficiently addressed. All adjacent residential wells were not considered in the hydrology study. The well reports are all available online in Volume 3, Appendix I.2, Water Supply Assessment, page 806 by CESP, only found 2 wells within 3,000 feet, while you can visually spot 3 in the area. What is the water table change expected from pumping out 42% of this aquifer for comparison to adjacent residential well depths? No hydrological impact conclusion can be drawn without discussing the change to the water table depth and the hydraulic head pressure available to pump by adjacent wells. Regarding noise impacts, I feel they are severe and underrated. The predicted noise levels at the nearby home are 64.4 decibels. This is 99% of the Kern County 65 dB threshold per DEIR Volume 3, digital page 922. And this figure excludes significant noise contributions. The noise assessment excludes multiple generators allocated to provide power for the well pump, office trailer, and lighting. The county's response to this was the noise analysis did not specifically include on-site generators because it is impractical to measure noise levels from each individual noise source, which often move around to different locations in a quarry. This is in Volume 4, page 7-124. Again, the studies favor less noise emissions by leaving out significant noise contributions to claim this extraction project noise is within limitations, though only barely. The noise assessment did not consider the grade variation of Mojave Tropico Road that will increase vehicle engine and braking noise. In Volume 4, page 7-121, the county deflects this discrepancy with a discussion of topographical noise attenuation. There are no topographical barriers between the property and these grade variations in Mojave Tropico Road. The county's deflection of topographical attenuation is irrelevant to the exclusion of grade variation in the noise study. Furthermore, the site is primarily upwind from the property, which causes the sound to carry further. The heavy haul trucks will also be traveling the Mojave Tropical Road. Assumptions about the noise of these trucks assumes smooth roads and level terrain. This road is not smooth. It's wears rapidly in just a handful of years. Continual use by heavy trucks will make this worse, and the heavy truck vibration will be less than significant, significant and cause increased noise. We'd ask that you consider limiting hours of noise generation, 50% of every day, 86% of the days in the week, 6 out of 7, for 30 years is not neighborly to established residents and sensitive wildlife. As for the construction project, in asking for reduced extraction operations, we've compared the noise and duration to living next door to a construction operation for 30 years. The county dismisses the request with quote, "The project is not a construction project." This is on page 7-122. Meanwhile, volume 2, appendix C.1, section 3-2, page 16, and digital page 474, Lilbrum assesses, quote, "The proposed project is essentially a construction type project, as the material would be excavated by loaders and transported to markets by street legal haul trucks." This is quoted in the DEIR page 4.2-35 and digital page 209. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you. Any other commenters?
Hi, thanks for your time. Erin Hambrick. So to continue the discussion here,
Please spell your name for the record.
Hambrick.
Thank you.
Alternatives analysis was excluded from the DIR. The county does not actually address any of the issues brought up and questions posed about the lack of alternative locations and proposals contained in the DEIR. Alternative locations in Volume 1, page 545 dismisses further evaluation because Cal Portland did not provide the research to the county. Dismissing evaluation of alternative locations due to insufficient research by the project proposer is negligent. The premise of CEQA is to consider locations that would avoid or substantially lessen any of the significant effects of the project. Therefore, it is not in compliance to speculatively assume there are no alternative locations. Pozzolan is abundantly mined in many states and is present in eastern Kern, western San Bernardino, Mono, and Inyo counties. Referring again to the studies cited in Volume 4, locating a mine close to the cement factory and substituting natural clinker benefit the producer only. They don't actually reduce carbon. While the closeness of the mine to the cement factory does have benefits, it is not the sole objective of the 7 objectives listed in Volume 1, page 3-27, and so should not be used as the sole argument to dismiss alternative locations. As the DEIR concludes this extraction project has significant unavoidable impacts, consider Cal Portland evaluate other pit mine sites that are not directly adjacent to established residences and disadvantaged communities, that have more suitable infrastructure to suit their haul truck operation, that have abundant water resources for dust mitigation, and would cause less significant unavoidable impacts. The DEIR Volume 1, page 52 dismisses a phased approach because it is unknown whether the size of the site and the proposed quarry would allow for a phased approach. Dismissing evaluation of a phased approach due to insufficient data provided by the project proposer is negligent. Consider the proposer providing a phased approach to be evaluated for reducing the significant unmitigated effects of this project. Recent history already proves Cal Portland will exceed the scope of its permits as well as negligently comply with safety and nuisance mitigation requirements. Impacts to air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, noise, transportation, and wildfire were negligently evaluated, as we've stated repeatedly in our previous comments and here. This extraction project, as described, has already and will continue to destroy the fragile desert environment surrounding the Gem Hill residences and the adjacent communities of Rosamond and Mojave. This extraction project will take away seasonal water from local and migratory wildlife and groundwater from established residential wells. This extraction project will take away unique scenic vistas, wildlife habitat, and dark skies. This extraction project will add constant noise, lighting, trash, pollution, and disturbance just outside of 2 towns. This extraction project will just, again, destroy the roads it uses and increases the risk of accidents on these roads. The tiny handful of dangerous jobs it creates are low-skill, high-turnover, often contracted positions that bring little value to our community. This extraction project offers only harm and no benefits at all to the adjacent residents, communities, and county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the audience on this project?
Good evening, Commissioners. I thank you for your service. I'm Bruce Schaefer, S-H-A-F-E-R. I've lived in Kern County for 32 years. I care about this place. For full disclosure, I have recently retired as an executive after spending my entire 38-year career with Cal Portland, but I remain as a consultant. Cal Portland has operated in Kern County for 67 years, providing jobs, paying taxes, and supplying the basic construction material to build our county infrastructure. As a chemical engineer, I am a cement chemist at heart. I am passionate about improving cement. I am here to support this project and share with you that the heart of this project is about cement chemistry. Don't worry, there's no quiz. Portland Cement builds our schools, hospitals, roads, and bridges. It is a product that has a heavy CO2 footprint. It's inherent in the process. Fortunately, as Ms. Haggard pointed out, it reabsorbs CO2 as concrete. There is no competing construction product for the unique application of cement-based concrete. Think Hoover Dam. Thus, in a world that is demanding large reductions in CO2, we need to find a lower CO2 way forward for this industry. And in Kern County hosts 3 of the 7 cement plants in California. This industry contributes greatly to the economy of Kern County. The opportunity here tonight is to set in motion a positive transformation for a more sustainable future for this industry for decades to come, so it can continue to support our local community, our local economy. Approving this CUP will unlock a wonder of nature in Kern County. That wonder is the volcanic tuff that makes up the hills outside of Rosamond. Over the eons, hydrothermal digenesis has transformed ancient volcanic ash into zeolite, which has the unique property of reacting with calcium to create a binder. The same binder which is generated by Portland cement, calcium silicate hydrate. By itself, this material is inert. However, in combination with Portland cement, a synergistic reaction takes place, resulting in an even better product. By harvesting this volcanic tuff, it will allow the replacement of up to 20% of the cement product with a low energy, natural material that will offset CO2 from the cement manufacturing process. This project will annually reduce an amount of CO2 equivalent to 60,000 gas-burning cars. That's roughly 1 in 5 cars in Bakersfield. County staff has thoroughly reviewed and heavily conditioned and mitigated this project for impacts. This is a very low impact project with huge benefits. I ask you to approve this super positive project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there anyone else wishing to speak about this project? Seeing and hearing none, I'll turn this over to the commissioners. Commissioner Judge, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, I want to commend our staff and everyone here today for a great presentation. A lot of good information here. I have a few questions. The first question I do have, I want to ask the applicant, is actually about the product. So if I maybe have the applicant back up, just have a couple questions about the product. Thank you. So, just a general question. You're saying that the pozzolan is actually replacing natural clinker, is that correct? In your guys' process here, currently, I know it reduces the CO2 emissions you're talking about. General question, how does it impact the actual cost of cement? Do you have any idea of that? Does it actually help reduce the cost of the product as well, or does it look to increase the product cost by introducing mineral versus the mineral you're replacing?
I'm not aware of the cost impact. Do you want to take that?
The process of manufacturing Portland cement takes a tremendous amount of energy, both thermal and electrical energy. Basically, this product just needs to be transported to the cement plant and ground to a very fineness. So it takes electrical energy, but it does not require heat. And when we make cement, we take a ton and a half of limestone, and we only get a ton of clinker because half a ton of that limestone is CO2. So by replacing the clinker, we don't release any of that CO2 from the limestone in the manufacture of cement. And so that was a long answer to it will lower the cost.
It will lower the, okay. And I'm just looking at that. And then currently right now, you did mention there's 3 to 7 cement plants here in Kern County.
Yes.
The location of this plant, besides, is this the location where this material is only being found, or this, the reason this place was selected was just for the mineral there, or was it also the proximity to a local industry and your guys' plant location?
So this specific mineral is not abundant, and it doesn't, we can't just go anywhere and find this very unique volcanic tuff. So that's why I called it a wonder. It's literally within, I think the haul distance is less than 25 miles from there all the way to the plant. So we're very close, and this material is very unique, and it's superior to other natural pozzolans that we've researched.
Okay, thank you. And one last question, one clarification. Again, I'm interested in the development side as a developer, looking at how this impacts our community, if it helps, minimize some of the costs of long-term development as we grow in the community. That's why I'm asking these couple of questions to you. Is this also, did I hear right too, does this also help increase the integrity of the concrete as well, as far as strength, or as far as the curing process? Can you explain a little bit on that?
Yes.
Sure. Portland cement concrete can be attacked by a number of environmental factors. It can be attacked by chloride, it can be attacked by sulfates, and the reaction between the pozzolan and the Portland cement clinker actually makes the concrete less permeable. So these environmental intrusions that essentially break down concrete over hundreds of years, 100 years or so, are mitigated, and the concrete is actually better with this product in it.
So in turn, giving longevity to the product as it ages, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I can give you an example.
Please.
The Pantheon, the Colosseum, they were all built with pozzolans back in the Roman times, and they're still standing.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had for you guys as staff. I had some questions for staff. There was questions brought up by some of the individuals on the project. Made a comment about some grading that was taking place. I just was refer to staff if they're aware of that, if that's been addressed, or any comment on that.
Commissioner Judge to the chair. So we were aware that some site movement had been done prior to us actively moving forward and getting the environmental impact report out, but nothing was done to the extent that it was either not authorized or that any improvements that were required weren't obtained or anything along those lines. So any type of site access or grading or anything that was done, I use the word grading, it only is official grading if it moves so much dirt and qualifies for need of a grading permit or things like that. But no, staff is not aware of anything that was done outside of any of the requirements for a project of any site or for a landowner of any property that they would not be allowed to do through normal means of processing any request similar to that.
Okay, thank you. Another question was brought up, obviously water being a concern. Obviously in the state we're in right now, water is definitely something we think about. I did look at what the applicant proposed of what looks like 18 acre feet per year. In actuality, that 18 acre feet per year is a very minimal use of water. I mean, a farmland that's 7 to 10 acres might use that in a month versus an annual process here. So, but with that, to me, still, we still have to be concerned about the aquifer situation. For their project, was the applicant, or did they have to go to process to get any type of clarification or get some approval by the local water municipality in that area? And if they did not, how do we look at that from the staffing perspective of allowing them to proceed with the well?
Commissioner Judge to the chair, I believe as mentioned in the presentation, and Mr. Cates, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're using an existing well that they have on site. And as part of using an existing well, in terms of water in general, I mean, you are allowed to use water that is within your groundwater basin for the beneficial use of your potential project. And so, you know, when you get to potential projects that use a lot of water or not, you know, that is a beneficial use that has to be looked at based on the amount of water that is needed for this project site. We don't believe that the water that is being needed would exceed any appropriate beneficial use, and we do not believe, based on the analysis that was done, that it would have any significant impact on the groundwater basin as a whole or the adjacent property users that also utilize any aquifer. And then as Mr. Cates indicated, when you get to the technicality of it, it's even a separated water source at certain locations. So based on that, staff believes that the item had been sufficiently addressed.
Okay, again, I apologize. I thought that was a new water, so there is existing well being used.
There's no well there.
No, so it is drilling a new well?
Yeah, Commissioner Judge, through the chair, it's staff's understanding that there is no existing on-site well. It's a proposed water well.
Proposed water. So, which they'll have to permit and get done through the local municipality, I'm assuming probably the state being in a commercial use, or how does that work? Will it be through just our local?
It would be through the local, just as similar
Local
then in
jurisdiction?
terms of environmental health, would
Okay.
have to issue various permits for new wells and anything along those lines. And again, I apologize by that. I misheard the presentation statement.
Okay, thank you. Then now I just have some operational questions about the site, and almost just want to come through as I did hear from the applicant that this is going to be creating 20 new full-time jobs, I believe, for this site, which obviously we always welcome jobs, but I do have a question is, seeing the ruralness of this facility, not seeing any facility buildings on this, how is the applicant, or if staff has addressed this, as far as anything as far as employee areas for break areas, restroom use, things like that, just general use for the employees, has that been addressed or brought up, or is something that we look at when going through this process? Unless the applicant can respond either way.
Commissioner Judge to the chair, I think that particular question would be more appropriate for the applicant, just in terms of, because it has to do with the activity that's on site and how they provide that for their employees.
Okay, fair. Thank you.
Yes, that was addressed in the staff report. We will be getting building permits as appropriate for an on-site trailer.
Okay.
And the restrooms for employees will be portable toilets.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification. And then, thank you. And great, one more question for staff. I am not familiar with the setback deviation option. Can you give me a little more clarification on that, please?
Commissioner Judge to the chair, I can. So in general, when we look at our reservations, we adopt our circulation element and we typically reserve all section and midsection lines below a 1,000-foot contour.
Okay.
You know, and that is identified for potential future roadways if needed. So they're not existing roadways or anything along those lines. They are the potential circulation element. So if a project were to be built on that site Normally, we require that the appropriate setbacks be done so that if the county ever needed to, or if it was ever justified or needed, we could have a road constructed at that particular location. We have a provision in our general plan that specifies, hey, under unique circumstances, it might not be appropriate to go through a circulation element, and a setback deviation analysis could be done instead. The difference meaning is this particular site, as shown on the aerials, and if we can show the aerial, that would work well. You see that aerial? If we can show the, could go back a little bit bigger. There was a figure that shows it very well. The circulation goes through basically the middle of a mountain. So the lines on that map that were identified for the circulation element did not account for any contours of the landscape. So that's a section, a midsection line. When it came to the general plan, we said that potentially could be reserved. You know, clearly, if you have a mountain that line would go through, you could not have a road that could traverse that. So given the uniqueness of the topography, this particular site qualified for a setback deviation as opposed to needing to go through a circulation element because it's not physically possible to have that roadway built at that configuration as it is. That's different than, you know, you've seen in the oil fields. We had a lot of times people say, hey, I'm in the middle of an oil field. I should do a setback deviation so that I don't have to have my wells away from that road. Well, there was no specific characteristics of the property for oil wells. So our answer was no. If you need to, or if you're wanting to drill a well within that, you need to eliminate that potential future roadway. So again, the difference in this is really the topography is what specified the reasoning why this particular site qualified for a setback deviation as opposed to having to request an amendment to the circulation plan. But again, what we're talking about are future lines on a map. There's not a road that traverses that right now where people access and kind of go through anything along those lines. This was just part of the standard section, midsection line. We reserve those for potential future needs if needed. And again, that's where the Public Works had reviewed that and said, no, given the existing development in the area, given the existing potential circulation plan, given the regional circulation needs, there would be no reason to maintain any roadways at those particular locations, which is why they were also supportive of that determination.
Thank you for that clarification. And my last question for staff is, talking with Public Works on Mojave Tropical Road here, having vehicles come in and out of this road, I did understand that we did make an amendment for a few signs on the site within 50 feet. Was there any discussion brought up about any concern about illumination on that intersection or access to get some site lighting for vehicle traffic coming on and off? Was that addressed at all or even communicated? Or I just want to hear the clarification on that on your part.
Commissioner Judge, to the chair, I do not have any comments or anything from Kern County Public Works that they believe that anything was specifically necessary to address that particular concern. Again, it is a mining operation. While they can operate and it does allow for operations to commence at various times throughout the day, you know, clearly you can only really do so much during the daylight hours and, you know, it's not an operation that necessarily operates 24/7 all the time. They allow for this because depending on the market demand, there could be uniqueness of mining operations, but there was not anything that was identified that resulted in some sort of significant impact where Public Works felt that it was necessary. Again, just to answer that question on the signs as well, you know, we do understand that the residents have some concerns, and so part of the clarifications that were identified by staff tonight are a way to help provide a pathway for ongoing concerns or issues to be specifically brought up and to be addressed. You know, this is a mine that is proposed to operate for a 30-year period of time, and we want to make sure that any action by your commission today is not there and go, it's this, it's never anything changes. You know, clearly when you're mining, you're at this location in one area, it kind of alters. We want to make sure that there was a pathway for these residents to be able to continually communicate both with the project applicant, but then also staff, and a way for staff to continually monitor what's going on so that specific operational adjustments are needed. We would be able to work with the project applicant to ensure those are done to reduce the impacts to the extent that can be done.
So just to recap, what you just mentioned is if local residents are having concerns that are outside of the conditions that are set in this project, we're keeping an open door for them to come back to staff and make those items addressed and to be reviewed, correct?
I want to clarify to make sure that, because I want to make sure I understood your question. But like, for example, you know, one of the conditions is, you know, clearly the trucks are not supposed to be leaving the site where they're having debris that is, they have to be covered, they have to be wetted, they have to have so much space between. Well, every once in a while, if we see something or something isn't being done as it should be, or we want to make sure that there is a pathway to say, hey, I was there, I saw, this is what we had, why is this being done? Clearly these were the conditions. When you have people involved, sometimes you have a truck, you have isolated, a high windy day or wherever it could be. Having those comments come in help allow both the project proponent, but then also staff to help verify and say, you know what? It was kind of a windy day. We should have made sure that because the wind was here, it was completely covered. The water wasn't sufficient that particular day, even though we thought it would have been, things along those lines, so that the project can continually to adjust to help to address concerns related to noise, related to air emissions, and dust particular that could be blowing off from those trucks and things along those lines. So that is kind of what that meant. Not an overall change of all conditions, but for the items that were specifically brought up by the community, we wanted to make sure that those can very specifically be addressed and monitored and managed. And so that is where those clarifications came in.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, and apologize for all the questions I had, but this is an important project, and it's important to address, I feel, what the community's brought here to us today. With that, I just will wrap up by saying, here in our county, I believe development is difficult and time around residential areas. We have to be mindful of how we can impact our community. And at the same time, I also believe if we should try promoting business where we can, if people are following the right guidelines. I want to commend Cal Portland on their efforts, a very intense EIR, a lot of conditions put on you guys as a project. I do feel that you guys have taken into consideration the concerns that were brought up, and staff has worked with yourselves to address these concerns. May not be possible to adhere to every concern that's raised, but I believe well efforted and put forward. And I want to commend the community for coming out, great comments, and I feel they were very well addressed and put forth. And with that said, though, I feel this is a good project, and I am in support of this project. And with that, I'll turn it over to any members of the commission for any other comments or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dodds. Do I have any other commissioner wish the floor? Hearing and seeing none, I just would comment that pozzolin has been around for many, many years. Well, it's been around forever, but it's been used, as mentioned previously, by ancient Rome. It's in a lot of ways superior product, and if we don't have fly ash, there's no real good way to make clinker work, and we will need cement. Portland cement for projects in the future, and that's not going to change, and including the very roads people are complaining about. So that said, I just wanted to point that out. There is an interesting technical as well as historical use of pozzolins, and the fact that we have it here is very interesting, and it's probably a plus in a lot of sense, because you would basically be replacing fly ash with that, so which is not necessarily as environmentally friendly. I would just point that out. So that said, I would like to know if we have a motion here to accept the staff's recommendation.
Chairman Giffey, I will make a motion to approve CUP on number 45, read and record by staff with the modifications in the amendment that was highlighted in the addendum that was provided to us tonight.
I will make a motion, second to that motion, and just want to commend staff. Very comfortable with all the items that we discussed today. Thank you for your questions, Commissioner Judge, and thank you to the staff for being experts in the EIR process. And I reviewed the report and comfortable making that second.
That said, call the vote.
Do you need a note? I can assist you if you'd like. I can assist if you would like. Okay. Yes or no? Okay. Okay. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Murphy?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. For projects where the Planning Commission action is final, those actions are subject to an appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. That appeal can be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department, located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms we have available at the department and that are located on this website. This filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of this hearing. If no appeal is received, the action of your commission is final.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Next item on our agenda is appointment of nominating committee. I was wondering if we'd like to postpone that till next month, or would you like to do that now? Very well. Therefore, I'd like suggestions on the nominating committee.
Commissioner Ashley, I believe you, me, were the last nominating committee, is that correct? So I would request if anyone else would like to make that suggestion.
I will gladly join the committee. I don't know. Perfect.
Very well.
So we'll make a motion to allow our chair and Commissioner, Lord, I almost called you Sprague. I apologize.
That would be wrong.
It's late, yes, apologize, Commissioner Skidmore, for a nomination committee.
All right. Okay. Voice vote.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Therefore, committee is set for next year. That said, our next item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Murphy?
Sorry, real quick, we have one more. Oh, we do not?
We do not.
Never mind. Thank you.
We're moving that
We were
item.
going to talk about our schedule for next year, but we will bring it to your next commission meeting,
That
where
is
we will
correct.
specifically identify which items.
The Madam Clerk has clarified that to me. So.
Yeah, she did not clarify to me, so I missed that.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Meeting adjourned.